G'day Darkrealmers, it's horror author and illustrator Michael J. Elliott here with you again. Happy Easter! Now, I don't have any eggs for you, but how about this as a bonus? A special extra edition of the Dark Realm Diaries this week. And since Easter is all about death and resurrection, I thought, what can I do that ties in? So for this episode, we're going to be looking at a really creepy TV series that deals with those themes. So sit back and get ready as we take a look at the Frankenstein Chronicles. Yeah! Okay, Darkrealmers, now if you're a fan of British costume period drama, a fan of mysteries, and a fan of classic literature, then you're going to love the Frankenstein Chronicles, because the writers cleverly combine all three elements in this new take on the Frankenstein story. Now, the Frankenstein Chronicles stars Sean Bean, who plays John Marlett, who is a river police officer, and he has returned from the Napoleonic Wars at Waterloo, and he has contracted syphilis, and through that he's caused the death of his wife and child. So he's plagued with angst, and he's plagued with nightmares and so forth. Now, he may be in advanced stages of syphilis, and there is a condition that is associated with that, and that's hallucinations and mental fugues and so forth like that. So the writers may have cleverly sort of incorporated that to make you wonder whether he's actually experiencing certain things or whether they're all in his mind. Okay, now it starts off very, very creepily, because as a river police captain, he's summoned to London, and he's asked to investigate the appearance of a body that's been washed up on the shore, and they refer to this body as an abomination. And when he gets there and he examines it, it is an abomination because it's a child, but this child has been stitched together with body parts. Hello, the Frankenstein connection? Yes. So straight away you're drawn in and thinking, okay, what is this? What's going on? Okay. Now, the interesting backdrop to this is that the Member of Parliament that liaisons with the Sean Bean character says, you know, we don't know. There may be a mad doctor involved. You know, it could involve body snatchers. But what he believes is that this is happening at a time where Britain is about to make changes to the cadaver laws or the body laws. Now, to give you a brief history, back in the day, it was very common for executed criminals to be sent off as cadavers for medical school research, but they were the only ones that could be legally sent or used as cadavers. Now, it wasn't that there was a lack of criminals. We're talking about a period where you could steal a loaf of bread and you could be transported to Australia, or you could be hung, okay, for such petty crimes. And don't forget, this is a time period where, you know, if you were in debt and couldn't repay your debts, you were virtually sent to the workhouse, which was a debtor's prison, and you had to stay there and work until your debt was repaid in some, you know, by someone or in some manner. Now, as I said, it wasn't that there was a lack of you know, cadavers. The problem was there were more medical schools than there were cadavers. And if you can imagine all these private medical institutions and you know, learning places all clamouring for bodies, this is where the body snatchers and the grave robbers came in. They could see a lucrative trade in this. Now, you may be aware of the famous Burke and Hare. Now, they were two body robbers or grave snatchers from Scotland, and they had quite a good business, you know, selling bodies to medical schools and even private doctors and so forth. Well, what happens, it was a sort of case of ghoulish economics, because when demand exceeds supply, you've got a problem. So what did they do? Well, they basically turned to murder. Well, you know, and of course they got paid more money the fresher the corpse was. But that's just one example. Now, the British government was thinking at this time of changing the laws so that it could be other types of people could, you know, be used or donated for medical research, and they may be people who died in hospital or died from an illness or something like that. And I'm not sure whether it also involved people being able to donate their relatives' body to science and that. But of course, amongst the body snatchers and the people who dealt in cadavers, there was a hue and cry, because it meant the end of their business. If supply is limited, then they kept in work, they got good prices, pardon me, for their bodies, okay? So the Member of Parliament thinks this may be some sort of protest by, you know, a group of nefarious grave snatchers. Anyway, as Sean Bean gets further and further into his investigations, he's drawn into the underbelly of London society, and he meets, you know, people who steal away children, and very much there's a character there who's a bit like Fagin, but he treats the children as they're prostitutes and so forth. Okay, well, he rescues one of these girls, and he's also drawn into the web where he tries to make contact with these grave robbers and so forth, and he's thwarted at a lot of attempts. Now, there's a lot of twists and turns in this plot, but it's very well written, okay? You have to stick with it, okay? Because also thrown into this mix, you have Sean Bean, who's suffering from syphilis, and he's taking what they thought was a cure in those days, or at least something to keep it at bay, and that was mercury tablets. And we all know that mercury is deadly, okay? But of course, back then they didn't know as much as we do now. Pardon me, Darkrealmers. And into this mix, he meets, by a series of coincidences and directions and instructions he's given by various other people, he meets William Blake. William Blake, yes, that's right, the very famous poet and artist. Now, William Blake provides him with a set of pictures he's drawn, and each of these pictures represents a clue or a pattern for him to solve this mystery. And because he's a bit of a, what could we call him? I suppose he was like, a 19th century, 18th century pothead, William Blake, okay? He doesn't give Sean Bean any clear answers, and that's what makes this so fascinating, because, you know, it would have cut the story short if William Blake had said, right, well, this painting represents this, this, this. He doesn't do that. It's up to Sean Bean to work this out. Now, also, you've got thrown into this mix, the writers have cleverly, very cleverly, brought in the one and only Mary Shelley. That's right, the author of Frankenstein herself. Now, she has secrets. She won't tell Sean Bean a lot about what's going on, but she hints that Frankenstein, her story Frankenstein, were based on things that she knew, nobody else knew. So straight away you're thinking, okay, this isn't going to be some simple just murder, political type situation. No, no, no. This is going to have some sort of creepy supernatural, horror element to it, okay? But of course, they don't, the writers, once again, very cleverly don't sort of direct him to Mary Shelley and then everything's explained, because that would be far too simple and it would be lazy writing, but they don't do that. She sort of keeps her distance and says, look, you must not ask me anymore, all that sort of thing. So we know that she has secrets and she has things, dark secrets. Okay. Now, into this, another character comes in, a doctor who Sean Bean meets through his sister. Now, she introduces him, and he's a doctor who, from the kindness of his heart, treats the poor, the disadvantaged. He looks after them in this hospice if they're terminally ill, and he also treats, to the best of his ability, those that he can potentially cure. But there's something underneath the surface. You wonder, okay, does this doctor, there's got to be something more. Does he really do this from the kindness of his heart? Does he have some sort of ulterior motive? Perhaps this doctor is actually using these patients, okay? Is he killing them and reanimating them? Well, the story progresses along. And now I can't give you the ending, because if I give you any more, I will basically ruin what is the most incredible ending to this series. But it turns out that there's a lot of red herrings in his investigation. And not only that, you find out that he's been manipulated and he's been guided because someone has an agenda for Sean Bean's character. And there's a wonderful scene where he's basically sent to trial because this young girl that he's helped, he basically murders her. Now, we don't know whether he's done that in his mind because of the syphilis, or he actually did do this, but he's sent to trial. So we think, okay, this must have happened, okay, but something's not right. Now, that's where the ending of this series starts to shape and gel, okay, and it is truly, truly magnificent. Pardon me, I have a slight cold, Darkrealmers. Now, the ending is just blew me away. It was just so totally unexpected, okay? And the writers are very good because they bring you to this point and you think, oh, okay, well, that's how it's sorted, okay. You may not be happy with the ending, but it's a false ending. It's very, very good, okay? It wonderfully combines, as I said, those wonderful elements of British costume drama and early, 19th century England, the architecture inside these creepy sort of horrible dwellings that are damp and dank and horrible. It does that very, very well. And it also shows you the other side, high society and their beautiful furnishings. And so there's a great juxtaposition there between the two worlds. And John Marlett, Sean Bean's character, is sort of somewhere in the middle of that, okay? So you can see him being pulled in either direction, and that's very well done. Now, I've found out that there's actually going to be a second series of the Frankenstein Chronicles, and that's great because the way it ended wasn't so much sort of cut and dry. It was a little bit of a cliffhanger, and I thought to myself at the time, this could go further without looking like it had been forced, okay? And so I was very pleased to read that the new series is being made and being produced. Now, as I said, there's a lot to admire in this show, Darkrealmers. It's not all horror, it's not horrifying. There are glimpses of these stitched together bodies, as I said, but it's nothing lascivious or in your face too much. It's more the atmosphere, the flickering candle, the drips of water from the ceiling, those sort of things that when you see Sean Bean investigating these dank and dark places and worrying what's around the corner, that's the sort of tension that the writers have brought. Okay, so if you enjoy that sort of drama, and I'm a huge fan. I think it's very, very clever to be able to take classic literature and spin it into a new story, okay, and to actually incorporate Mary Shelley herself is just wonderful, okay. Now the series is available on DVD and Blu-ray, so you can purchase that yourself, have a look at it, or rent it, of course, and possibly even, rent to stream it from a service, and then you can get ready for the next series, and I'll do you an update when that's available, okay, Darkrealmers. But I'm sure you're going to enjoy that because it's what the British do very, very well, okay? So can definitely, if I used a rating system here, Darkrealmers, it'd be 5 stars from me, okay? Well, I hope you've enjoyed my look at the Frankenstein Chronicles, okay? As I said, it's a wonderful show. Now, if you've liked our video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you want to leave a comment, if you've seen it yourself, leave a comment for other Darkrealmers and tell us what you thought of it, okay? Because I'd be interested to hear your take on it, okay, too? And also, don't forget to subscribe to us because we do some great reviews here. We've got another television show review coming up of another show that I've just blown away by, but more about that later. Okay, Darkrealmers, well, as I said at the beginning, I hope you have a wonderful Easter. I hope it's safe and pleasant for you and your family. And as I always say, stay in the light, Darkrealmers, and I'll see you very, very soon. Bye for now.